All right, let's talk about a company you've absolutely relied on, but you've probably never even heard of. It's this silent, massive giant that basically powers the entire American healthcare system.
I mean, really think about it for a second. Your doctor writes you a prescription, you pop over to the pharmacy, and boom, there it is. But how? How does that one specific pill made in a factory maybe thousands of miles away end up right there in your local CVS or hospital? Well, the answer involves one of the biggest companies you've never heard of.
And when I say big, I mean truly enormous. The company at the very heart of this system pulls in around $250 billion in revenue every single year. A number that big puts it right up there with some of the most famous corporations on the planet.
So, what is it? The company is called Cencora. Now, you might recognize its old name, AmerisourceBergen, which came from a merger way back in 2001. But whatever you call them, they are, quite simply, a titan of pharmaceutical distribution.
Okay, so what do they actually do? The easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think of Cencora as the pharmaceutical superhighway. They're the essential link, right? The thing that connects thousands of drug manufacturers to every hospital and pharmacy in your neighborhood. Picture it like this. On one side, you've got the huge drug makers, your Pfizers, your Mercks, and on the other side, you've got tens of thousands of hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies. Cencora is that absolutely critical middleman, the wholesaler that buys everything up from the manufacturers and sells it to the providers.
The journey's pretty straightforward when you break it down. A drug gets made, it's shipped in these massive quantities to a Cencora distribution center, and from there, it's sent out in very specific orders to your local hospital or pharmacy. Cencora is that essential step number 2 that makes the whole thing work.
And to make all this happen, they run this vast physical network. We're talking more than 50 super high-tech distribution centers, all strategically placed to make sure they can cover the entire country, and fast. But, and this is a huge but, it would be a massive mistake to think Cencora is just a trucking and warehouse company. Nope, their business is way more complex and technologically advanced than just simple delivery.
So the easy assumption is they just move boxes from point A to point B. But the reality, Cencora is really a solutions provider, and they are deeply, deeply embedded in the system. They manage these unbelievably complex logistics, they analyze data, they even consult with drug makers on how to get new products out to the market. And just look at this menu of services. They handle cold chain logistics for drugs that have to stay refrigerated. That's a huge deal. They prepare sterile drug compounds for hospitals. They use things like RFID tags for incredibly precise inventory control. They even distribute home healthcare equipment. So you see, they offer this whole suite of really valuable services. Now, as you can imagine, being this big and this central to everything comes with incredible power and efficiency. But it also comes with enormous responsibilities. And yeah, some pretty significant problems.
Let's start with the upside. Cencora's massive scale is, without a doubt, its greatest strength. It creates efficiencies that, in theory, are supposed to lower costs and make sure that pretty much any drug can get to any pharmacy in the country, a lot of times overnight. And to keep that edge, they have been investing heavily. We're talking over $800 million just in the last decade, pouring money into automation, robotics, and some seriously advanced supply chain technology. This is how they stay on top. Okay, but here's the flip side. When you are the superhighway, you're also responsible for what travels on it. And with that kind of responsibility comes massive risk. And those risks are very, very real. Just like other major distributors, Cencora has faced huge lawsuits over its role in the opioid epidemic, with allegations that they didn't do enough to stop suspiciously large orders of painkillers. On top of that, their business runs on razor-thin profit margins. It's all about volume, which makes them super vulnerable to cost pressures. And because their system is so complex, any little disruption can cause massive ripple effects. So yeah, they are under constant, intense regulatory scrutiny. So, with all that in mind, let's bring this all home. Why does this invisible giant really matter to you and me? Because it is, and this is no exaggeration, the backbone of the American healthcare system. Now here's one of their most critical and probably least understood functions. Cencora buys billions of dollars worth of drugs and just holds them as inventory. Think about that. This absorbs a huge amount of financial risk. It means your local pharmacy doesn't have to tie up all its money buying every single drug it might possibly need. Cencora basically takes on that financial burden for the entire system. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Cencora, in a way, is your silent health partner. They're the core infrastructure. They simplify the logistical nightmare for doctors and pharmacists. And they're the ones who make sure that when you need a medicine, it's actually there. Their performance, good or bad, directly impacts you.
And that leaves us with one final and really crucial question. The system we have is incredibly efficient, it's built for this just-in-time delivery, but by putting so much power into the hands of a few hidden giants, have we maybe sacrificed resilience? What happens to all of us if one of these giants stumbles?